everyone. Welcome back to Modern Muses. My name is Sophia Burgos, and I hope you are having a fantastic day. But if you're not, chin up, Buttercup, because today I'm introducing to you a certified cool girl, a baddie, if you will. Her name is Andi Eaton Alleman, and she brightened my whole day, so I know she's going to brighten yours. Andi is the founder of Casa Noon Beauty, her new beauty line that's coming out very soon. Super exciting. But she's also the founder of We Studio. This is her platform where she is empowering people to start that business, build that dream, do the thing that you want to do. But let's do it in a way that really harnesses your specific creativity, your specific skills, and do it in a way that's organic to who you are and how you want to walk through this life. In this conversation, Andi and I talk so much about human design and all the different tools out there that can really help you have just some self-inquiry and figure out, how do I want to start a business? How do I want to schedule my day? We also have some really fun girl talk about the zodiacs and our various dating experiences. Andi has so many great tips to share about how she got her own brand up and running, how she continues to walk an authentic life that gives her energy, that is totally anti-hustle culture. So if that is something you are interested in, I think you're going to love this episode. I walked away with so many tips that I am currently implementing into my podcast, into my day-to-day life. So I hope you absolutely enjoy this episode with Andi Eaton Alleman. Hello, Andi. It is so nice to see you.
So
How
good
are
to see you
you?
too. I'm good. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Welcome to my new space, Modern
I'm
Muses.
so excited for you.
Thank you. The last time we saw each other was at Fernando and Angie's wedding.
It sure is. Yes.
So we're distant fam. So
I
nice to have
know.
fam back.
It's true. And I can't believe that was maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It was some years.
Yeah, and it's funny you say
Yeah.
that because I've been thinking about doing this for about 2 years. When I met you and even at that wedding, I was really in a low spot in my life. Like, I was I was really struggling with some things, and I met you at the wedding. We spoke very, briefly, like, at the
Mhm.
table. There was so much going on, and then you gave me your basically your elevator pitch very quickly of, like, all of the things that you're doing, and I was so intrigued, and you gave me your Instagram information, and then later that night, I went through, like, everything. I went through your Instagram and your website,
Oh.
and I was like, "Wow, like, she is so incredible. I wish I'd known all of this more
Oh,
thoroughly, and
thank
then I
you,
would've
girl.
would've harassed you at the wedding and asked you, like, 5 billion questions," because I really needed to see that at the time, and since then I am just so happy that you're in my orbit and your
Thank
page is
you.
always coming up on my social media feed, and it's given me a lot of inspiration, which is why I thought immediately to invite you on because I want I want to hang out with more people like that. I think there should be more spaces for people like that, and I'm hoping that this podcast finds its people and gets a lot of ears on it, and yeah, I would love to just dig deeper into what you do. So thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you. And thanks for having me and thanks for sharing all of that. It's so kind of you to say all of that. I really appreciate it. So grateful.
Of course, I deeply mean it, and I'm very excited to have you here. So I want to say also that one of the things that really struck me about your brand, your presence, and what you're doing is I specifically identify as a creative.
Mhm.
And I spend a lot of time with creatives. You spend a lot, your partner's a creative.
Mhm.
So you really know the creative world. Yet you somehow, your brand really encompasses this beautiful blend between business, getting stuff done, being successful, having a brand, really being a businesswoman. but you're also so creative and you have this flow state that I associate with creatives. And it seems like you've really
Mhm.
found that middle piece. So, really, I need you to advise me here and tell me all your secrets because I find that there usually are two kinds of people and you found that middle state. So, how did you do that? Let's start there.
Mm, yeah. It's so true. It's like we can kind of like sit in one or the other, but I don't see them, business and creativity, as separate anymore. I used to in a big way. For me, now creativity is what fuels my business and vice versa. My business inspires me to become more creative. So I'm always looking at the intersection of the two. And I think deeper than that, I'm always looking at the intersection of my intuition and how I apply strategy to that. And then being a strategic person, I am a Capricorn rising in astrology. So I have that like inherent strategy within me, but I'm always looking at how my strategy then gives me the opportunity to go deeper into my intuition. And a big part of that, I mean, if you've been hanging around my Instagram, you know that human design is something I spend a lot of time. And to be honest, when I started studying human design, it wasn't because I was like, how can this better my creativity or how can this better my business? It was more of like, how can I understand my partner who's really different from me? Like, that's really why I started studying human design many, many years ago. But then as I applied it to my partner, who was my boyfriend then, who's now my husband, as you know, then I started to apply it to like my friendships and like my family. And then what if I tapped a little deeper into my understanding of self as a business
Mm.
person and as a creative person? And so now when I am especially creative and allowing myself to be in that place, my business naturally expands. And when I focus more on how I get into business flow, more time for creativity arises. And so I really remind myself often that everything I'm creating in business, whether it's a retreat or a mastermind or a course, it started as an inspired creative idea first. And then I just applied strategy to it, backed it up
Mm.
with systems so that it could become scalable. And then I could get back to doing the more creative things. So it becomes this like cycle. And I had to stop judging myself. And when I say judging myself, I had to like allow business to be okay. Because there was a part of me that was like, if it's creative, I can't apply business to that. And I would like judge myself for feeling that way, that like creativity had to exist and it's on its own and that business couldn't like sit with it. And when I stopped doing that and really allowing my business to become a fuller expression of me, it was like, oh no, they can sit together. They really can play together really well.
Yeah, I totally feel that. I'm also holding on to some feelings that they can't really live together or that,
Yeah.
I belong definitely on one side of the scale much more than the other.
Yeah.
And this is very new for me. I've never ever in my life worked a non-creative job.
Mm-hmm.
So there are just certain things that I think I'm going through the growing pains right
Yeah.
now of kind of figuring out what the balance is and also being comfortable to some extent with some of the more, goal focused, time sensitive checklist tasks. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
such a different thing that I need to integrate into what I'm doing. And for you, you said you didn't see these things as together.
Mm-hmm.
Were you kind of more on one side or the other, or were you kind of just flipping between business and creative and it was just wearing you out?
Yeah. So it's funny that you asked this because I had written my first book and still did not identify as a writer, which is so bizarre. Like, I was like, that writing a book is inherently like one of the most creative things you can do. But in my mind, I was like, no, there was all this structure and research, and I had to like apply this very specific framework to writing a book. And so I would like go into, like go to like a cocktail party and someone would say, you have a book and oh, you're a writer. And I would be like, oh, I don't really identify that. Like I was like, I had some imposter syndrome of even calling myself a writer because to me, writers were creatives and I was not a painter or a musician or
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have those skill sets. So in my mind, I couldn't be a creative unless I had those skill sets. And I'm surrounded by
Mm-hmm.
people who do have those skill sets. So I was like, oh no, this person is a creative. I'm just over here doing some research and reporting on something through the written word. And when I reflect back on that, it's because I had spent so many years in a corporate environment and what I know now is I was incredibly creative as a corporate girly. I was like coming up with strategies and ideas and campaigns and marketing that were highly creative, but I did not see it that way. I saw myself as a business person first. But when I reflect back to being a kid, I certainly didn't think that way. And I remember being like, in college and some of my family members being like, you're going to be so great in sales. You should go into sales. And when I think about it, it's because what I was really great at was storytelling and engaging people to just like be in my orbit. So they're telling me you need to be in sales. And I'm thinking, oh, that means I have a skill set that is business that I'm like gathering through this university experience. But the reality is there was, we're all multifaceted people. And I was like suppressing what I thought was the creative part of me because I didn't see myself in the way that I saw some of the people that I spent time with who I thought were like, that's the real creative. I'm just over here, good at a couple of things that are just going to like make me good at business.
Interesting. So you
Hmm.
had kind of this suppressed understanding of yourself,
Yeah.
some skills and talents that you clearly had that you just didn't identify with.
Right.
And now I'm self-reflecting and I'm like, am I actually a business girly? And I just
Yeah,
don't
maybe you
know
are.
it.
Yeah, because look, to be like great at business, you've got to be highly intuitive. You've got to be able to like work in systems. You have to be able to you have to think on your feet, which is creativity in itself. You have to be able to be really great with people, but you have to build relationships. You have to get people to buy into what you're doing. I think like the best business people today, like going into the future of business, are going to be highly magnetic because they have an inherent creativity that they express in the way that they move through the world. And so now I get that. And you probably have that very much too.
Well, thank you. I'm learning. And I think the first step is just being open to sitting with these two sides of yourself and
Hmm.
trying to see where they kind of come together or where they don't. And I want to definitely ask about human design and
Hmm.
self-inquiry because I'm learning. And I think that's the first step is to realize like it's not going to flow together right away.
Yeah.
And it's a learning process. At the moment, in the beginning, it just feels really exhausting
Hmm.
to try to merge these two parts. What advice would you give to those of us who are still trying to find that, like what you said, this journey of like actually acknowledging and letting open the doors to that side of you that's necessary to have a well-rounded business and well-rounded lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that we have to do, like all of us, is a lot of unlearning of how we think we're supposed to do things. And that was one of the biggest things for me. And I find that over and over again with the women in my community is they're like, well, I know that the way is supposed to be X, this way, and they have inherently a different approach because we all do. We're not the same. And there's one thing it's one thing to go and like study and learn and get some base level grounded understanding of what it is that you're entering into from a business perspective, for example. But there's another thing that is like, I'm going to do it this way because that's the way that everybody says to do it. And that will never feel good to most of us because this is the
Sorry,
world
my
of
dog's
podcasting where the pets are like, no, I want to be involved. Um, yeah. So, I think that that's the thing to really think about is what is it that I'm doing that I think that I'm supposed to do this right? And I'm using like air quotes when I say right. How can I unlearn that and then really tap into my flow and do things in my way? When I did that, it's like I turned a key or like hit a domino and things just started falling into place. But it took years of really going through that like unlearning process to start finding the approach that would be mine.
Yeah, and what comes up for me when you say that is I know something I know about myself because I have taken the time to learn about myself and self-inquiry, and I've even looked at like my human design and things
Mhm.
like that. I know that I'm the kind of person who needs to be in like an open-ended flow to do things.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be inspired. I need to be called to it. I am not a pull out the calendar and create a day-to-day schedule. And like this does not work for me at all. Like when I put
Yeah.
rigid structures around my time, whew, yet I think that this is what's necessary. So I do it. I try it again and again and again to put my schedule in like very specific, like from 9 to 12, you're going to do this. And it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
work for me at all. But I think maybe that's a misconception I'm holding about how I need to work so that I can like get everything done on time and be able to post once a week and.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what I would do? I am a big advocate for time blocking. However, you've got to like back into it, honestly. Okay. And when I say like back into it, it's like take your calendar over a couple of weeks and notice when you felt like really in flow or really like called to do certain things and make a note of that on your calendar first. So like for example, I used to always put my social media, like I need to get on social media, do all my social media stuff at like 9 a.m. Okay, what I've learned is I am not a get on social media at 9 a.m. girl. Like it does not work for me. I don't feel I'm not called to create something for social then. What I definitely know is I am not a person to do like a 30-day social media plan. Like that is not it for me. But I'm also not like a get up and do it first thing. At about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, after I've had a matcha and I've like gone and put my feet in the grass, then I can like sit down for an hour and like create something that I feel good about for social. But it took me having to like back into that and like really look at when did I feel interested in doing this thing? Well, what I noticed is
Ooh.
on that particular thing, I would start feeling interested at about that point in the day, like this 3 o'clock point in the day. So then it was like, okay, well, what do I want to do at 9 o'clock in the morning? What do I want to do at 10 o'clock in the morning? What am I still like game for at 5 o'clock in the afternoon? Because if I put client calls at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, like that doesn't feel good. I want to be doing some like maybe doing a little bit of studying of whatever it is that I've just been working on for the past month, get some like perspective on how it's gone and make some notes on that and then like wrap up the day. So now what I can do with those time blocks is plug them in a way that's like, that makes sense because I know when I'm energetically more likely to want to do the things that I've put on my calendar because I've backed into it that way. So you maybe try that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you. That's really helpful because there are definitely these moments where suddenly I feel inspired
Yeah.
to do the work. So
Yeah.
it would be helpful for me to inquire, like, why am I inspired right now? Is it
Yeah.
the time of day or like what
What is
what what
happening? Yeah.
circumstances happened that now I feel really inspired to do this thing and maybe check that and say, okay, it's not a random event. It's something that I can maybe create or
Yes.
try to recreate in my life so that I'm working in a much more
Yeah.
nice, flowy way.
Exactly. Yeah. And then what will happen is you'll show up to the calendar and it'll be like 3 o'clock, time for social. And you'll be like, great, because I was feeling like doing that anyways, you know?
Yeah, I would love to hit that point. And I think most people want their work to feel that way. And I think
Hmm.
when you don't find your way, your authentic way, that's when you get into like a hustle, like what feels like draining
Yeah.
work. And I've seen you talk a lot about being anti-hustle,
Hmm.
anti-hustle culture.
Hmm.
Is that how you would define hustle? Like really working against your nature, or do you have another definition?
Yeah. I definitely think it's like working against your nature. It's working in a way that you are like in a full body. No, this doesn't feel good, but I feel mentally, I feel like I have to. Logically, I feel like I have to. But in my body, I feel like this is not, it doesn't feel good. I think we've all been in that place where we're like, I just have to push a little harder. It doesn't feel good. But to get to that next level, I have to push a little harder, or I see them doing it. And if they're going to work that hard, why am I over here like taking an afternoon tea break and like sitting in my journal? Like, what am I doing? So, yeah, I think that, there's so much of what we're taught about success is that you have to be that way. I don't I that's not a sustainable place to be for most of us.
Yeah, and I'm feeling that right now because
Yeah.
I think also there are certain there are certain industries that expect you to hustle more,
Yeah, for sure.
where you just can't control so many of the environmental factors. So, what advice would you give to someone who feels like I can't change so many of these things?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's hard because it is like the programming of what success is for so many industries is that like that's how you're supposed to show up, and like spaciousness is not a priority. And if you like take it, it's like what in the world are you doing? Like you're supposed to be like grinding all day. And I do think there is a bit of a pivot that's starting to happen in some industries where it's like actually conscious work. You're not going to get your best work when you're working that way, and conscious work looks really different. So I think there's this like in the middle, which is you have seasons where you're deep in creation, or maybe you are having to move with a little bit more of that hustle. But then you have to get the best out of yourself, whether you're working for a company or whether you're in an industry where it's you doing you, but you're relying on the industry to kind of lift you up and like give you some support or see you, even no matter what that looks like. Or if you're running your own business and you're like, well, I don't make sales if I'm not on, like that's a thing too. The reality is, if you don't have some sort of rest, some sort of time to tune into your energy, for me, one of those things is like travel. You're not going to get, for me, the next big idea, the next like creative infusion if you're not getting some different perspective. That's very much a thing for me that travel does for me. So it's becomes about embracing cycles, and maybe you do have to go a little bit harder. And there's certainly like when I've got something big that I'm launching, I'm not over here like, oh, I'm just going to have all this spaciousness today and like be sitting in the grass with my matcha, because I might have a day where I am really having to go, or a couple days or a week where I'm having to go really hard because of a thing that I'm like creating that's getting out into the world. But then I need to honor my natural rhythms and like go do my thing, which could be travel or yoga or sitting in the grass with the matcha, whatever it might be, so that I'm not like creating more burnout on the other side of it, which I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah, and I want to get into human design actually
Hmm.
because that seems to be a tool that really resonated with you. It's how you got to understand other people, your partner, your friends, and ultimately how you got to really know yourself.
Hmm.
Just for anyone who may not be familiar with human design, can you just give a little background on it?
Yeah, it's a pretty wild system, honestly. So the basics of it is it's an energetic blueprint of each of us as a unique individual that shows us how we are designed to make decisions, create, engage with the world around us. It shows us our natural gifts and talents, our energetic flow, how we're meant to work, how we're not meant to work. And it's based in a combination of modalities, and like the top level of those is astrology, the I Ching, Kabbalah. There's some like genetic chakra system stuff in there too, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the basics of what it is.
And did you just stumble upon it, or how did you get so invested in human design?
Yeah, kind of. I think the first time I heard about it was on a podcast, and
Okay.
these gals were talking about it, and I think one of them was reading the other one's human design chart, and the host was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so me. That's so." It was just like over and over. That's so me. That's so me. Well, and she was like having all of these like big aha moments, and I was like, what in the heck is this? And I've always like been really interested in astrology. At one point I trained as an astrology reader. I've never done readings as like a part of my business, but I was really interested in understanding it in a deeper way. So I was really interested in astrology, and I was like, this is kind of like astrology on crack. This is so cool. Like, what is happening here? So I heard these ladies talking about it on a podcast. I think I went and bought I went and bought a book that they had mentioned. It's actually a book called I think it's called The Astrology. It's got astrology in the name. It's a human design book by Karen Curry Parker, and she's got a couple of really really great human design books, but the first one I picked up was called like The Astrology of You or The Astrology of Your Design. So I was like, oh, yeah, it is like astrology on crack. So I got into it and really just practiced on myself, like understanding self and my husband. That was it. Like, that's what I did for like 2 years. It was like, okay, I learned like learning more about this part of the chart. This is what it says about me. This is what it says about you. This is how we engage. This is how we understand each other better. These are your gifts. These are my gifts. So that was the foundation of it, was really just like using it for that self-inquiry and understanding my partner better.
That's the thing, I'm not like super enmeshed in astrology or human design, although I did look up my chart in case you asked me what I
Hmm.
was, because I wanted to do my homework
Yeah.
and be
Wait, so tell
prepared.
me, what are you?
So I have my chart right here. I
Okay.
can tell you, I am a projector.
Okay. What are your profile lines? Do you see that on your chart?
Yeah, sure.
Uh-huh. There's a section on your chart that should say profile, and it's two
Oh,
numbers.
yes. Sorry. I see that. Yes.
Okay.
6'2", the exemplary human.
Yep. Okay. I would have guessed that about you. Ben is also, my husband is also a 6'2" projector. A lot of times artists and musicians are, FYI.
Okay, what does that mean?
So projectors they're the seers of our planet. They can see deeply into people, experiences, humanity. Like they have this ability to kind of penetrate through the noise and like pick up what's special in the world. And that's why oftentimes you'll find that projectors are artists or artists are projectors, because they are like pulling the like beauty out of everything around them. And then the 6-2. So the sixth line, so we all have two lines. The sixth line is basically, I call it the wise sage. So it's like we feel, if we're a 6, we feel like we've lived many lives in one lifetime. So you probably feel that that's true about yourself. And the 6 is like, they pick up so much knowledge with everything that they do that they really become they become our wisdom keepers, which also influences the art, I think, because you'll hear 6s often called old souls. And sometimes they may in fact be an old soul if you believe in ages of souls, but they definitely have this deep ability to carry lessons and then express that through their work. And then the 2 is, I call that like our intuitive introverts, or they're like solace seeking people. So they're looking for like spaces of calm, or they want to create that. They want to create spaces of calm for the world around them. So also projectors are not meant to work, just so you know.
Oh, God.
Like
I
if
mean, I feel that. I was telling my friend the other day, like a few weeks ago, I was joking about like, because she had just quit her job and I was like,
Mhm.
oh, that's the dream. You don't have to
Yeah.
work. And she's like, what?
Yeah.
I'm dying. Like she was
Yeah.
one day out of the job and
Mhm.
she was freaking out. And I was like, girl, that's my dream.
Yeah, you're
I
like,
could
"I just wanna,
easily
like"
not work.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so,
Just do
like,
my
if we
hobbies.
right, if we lived in, like, an ancient village, the projectors would be, like, holding space in, like, a very beautiful room and, like, doing their creative things, and then people would come
This
in
is
to
so
see.
me.
Uh-huh. No, this is what you would be doing, okay? You would literally be in the room, in some beautiful room, creating your art, and then people would come to see you to see what you're seeing, to like understand your wisdom and to help better their life. But you would not be out like building the pyramid or whatever it might be.
I feel so seen right now, Andy.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed. No, it's so funny because that's wild. Because I mean, I think it also just feels so validating that you can
Mm-hmm.
like give someone a word and two numbers and they just kind of
Uh-huh.
like give you such a specific picture of like, yeah, that's me. Like
Mm-hmm.
people have often said that I was a very wise person, that they
Yeah.
come to me for wisdom. They love hearing my input on things, like just from not strategic wisdom, but like just life wisdom. I gravitated immediately towards tantra and like
Mm-hmm.
creating space for people to heal and grow and feel. And when people can't, like when people don't resonate with that, it's very confusing for me. So that I'm just like, okay, well, I'm just gonna do my thing over here, and the people who do resonate with me will show up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so funny that you say that because, yeah, I have like 10,000 hobbies. I really love to just like create my creative flow. But I will tell you the biggest hang up that I have right now, because as we're recording, none of this is being posted yet. I'm just in the recording phase.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I am the most hung up about social media and about marketing because
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like I so deeply don't want to do that. I don't want to ask anyone to come listen or join me or do any of these things. Like, I just want to create it and let it exist. And then the people who come will come.
Yeah.
Very hard for me to wrap my brain around marketing and posting and social media and things
Yeah,
like that.
that's so normal for a 6'2" projector. So that's
Yeah,
normal.
great.
And projectors in general, so there's this idea that so in human design, we all have a way that we like get into flow. And for projectors, it's called wait for the invitation. So you feel like you have to be invited into an experience to like get into the flow of whatever that thing might be with other people. And so for social media, it can feel really confronting because you're like, no one is asking me to talk about my podcast.
Exactly.
So like, why in the world would I be like just shouting it out to people? Like that's how it feels for you. And so what I always tell projectors when it comes to, and I have great practice on this with my husband who is an
Yeah.
artist and is like, am I really going to just be like posting about my like new song every day? Like, if they want to hear it,
Yes.
they'll come and find it, right? So the thing that I always tell projectors is remember the people that are like in your orbit have already invited you to share their magic with to share your magic with them. They want that. They would not be in the world of social media. They wouldn't be following you. They wouldn't be wanting your gifts if they've already showed up. They've already said, yes, please give that to me. So then the way becomes, rather than being like, hi, I'm here making an announcement about this thing I'm doing, it's like, let me just share these life lessons I'm having and here's how I will share them. So like, and I'm using my husband as an example a lot, but it's a good one because in music, rather than him being like, ta-da, new record, he can create social that's like, let me share the lessons through the music. And then it's like that really lands with people. So if he like shares like a snippet of a song, but talks a little bit about like what he experienced creating that song, people are like, oh, I so resonate. There's so much resonance. So for you, for example, in sharing the podcast, it's going to be like, this is what I'm learning through this experience. These are the life lessons that I'm now gathering as a wisdom keeper. And hopefully this will be helpful to you too. And it will be helpful to all the people that are receiving you. And then it won't feel like, hi, I'm making an announcement about my thing that I want to force you to go get involved in. Because that's not at all what's happening, but that's how it will feel to you if you approach it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's so brilliant. It's so brilliant because even yesterday I was talking to my partner about this whole process. You're my third interview, and
Mhm.
the thing that I think about the most is how much I've already learned between
Yeah.
the first interview and the second interview and the third interview. And for me, that's like the wisdom. That's the part that gets me
Yeah.
all jazzed up is
For
the
sure.
learning.
For sure. And I mean, which by the way is one of the coolest things about doing a podcast is all of a sudden it's like you got to have conversations with people in like a very intimate way that completely light you up. And then the next level of that is then you get to share it with people. And so if you can think about the social and the marketing of it in that way, especially as a 6'2" projector, that like you just got the most intimate, deep level of knowledge transfer. And who are you to hold that back from sharing that with the people in your community or the people that will then find you as you continue to do this? I mean, you wouldn't want someone to gatekeep that from you. So who are you to gatekeep it from everyone else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy, thank you so much.
I got you, girl.
This was, man, brilliant. Really, really helpful. I so needed to hear that. And you carry so much wisdom yourself. So thank you so much for
Thank
sharing
you.
that with me. It's very, very motivating. But I'm very curious. What is your human design? What have you learned about yourself?
So I'm a manifesting generator. My profile lines are 1-3. So while you're that like wise, sage, intuitive introvert, my 1-3 is I have like a secret genius, and I call the line 3 the relatable queen. So people for me in my world, they want to know how I'm doing what I've done. And so the more I can share that in a relatable way, the better connected people feel to me, and then it supports my growth. The manifesting generator part of me means that I am meant to work. So I don't get to sit in the beautiful room and make art with you in the ancient village. But I'm
You can if
also
you want to.
Thank you. Thank you. I will come visit sometimes. I have this generator energy, which means like there's a constant like fire burning to do the things. And then I also have the manifester part, which is that I also see the vision for like where that's going. So for me, that means a lot of like I have a lot of interests and I have to pay attention to which of my interests is keeping that fire stoked and remember to hold the vision and not get like down too many rabbit holes of too many things and create burnout for myself.
Okay. And you've come such a long way in this. I mean, clearly, I'm just blown away by everything you're sharing with me. What was something that you really needed to deconstruct for yourself to get to that place?
Yeah, because I'm designed to move fast. One of the things that I had to decondition from was getting stuck in commitments that actually no longer light me up. Like we're totally programmed as kids to like pick a thing that we're going to be when we grow up, right? It's like, okay, what are you going to be when you grow up? You're going to be a nurse, you're going to be a teacher, you're going to be an artist, you're going to be an astronaut. You're not like, oh, I'm going to be an astronaut and an artist. Like that's not how it really goes when you're a kid. And for a manifesting generator, we are like, I'm going to be an astronaut and an artist. And so in my life, I've taken like multiple career paths and gone really deep in those. And I may be really successful in something and I still am like, oh, but what about that thing over there? And so I have to really be mindful that when my energy starts to shift, even if something's going really well and I've made a commitment to it, if it does not light me up any longer, it will not be sustainable for me and it will not be something that like continues to have success if I'm not still energized about it. And so I've had to learn to let go of things that were working but don't feel aligned anymore. And that was really scary and hard because when something's working, you're like supposed to stick to that thing. You're not supposed to like be like, yep, well, cool, but now I'm going to blow that up and go do something else. But I have found that the more I've like allowed myself to do that, of course, the better like my life is. And if I've created success in one way, I can do it again. And I've learned that I have to give myself that like grace and credit that I do know how to do that. And that permission has been a big learning.
Yeah. And I think being able to recognize that you are working outside of your flow or outside of your nature and be able to course correct gently and with, kindness to yourself is important. And I think along with what you were saying about me being the 6'2", the one who doesn't want to work really, I think for me, the hardest thing to gently course correct is I'm definitely going to try what you said, though, about like finding the times of my day where I'm inspired and incorporating that more. But I definitely sometimes feel trapped in the like, yeah, but I'm perfectly content not doing it right now.
Yeah.
Like I'm perfectly content just zenning out and just sitting in the sun and not working.
It's so true. And the cool thing for projectors is when you do that, recharge like that, like go sit in the sun and like take a moment, then you are going to come back with the best inspiration and you're going to do your best work. It's just going to happen in a different way than it happens for the rest of us and in probably a shorter amount of time.
Yeah, absolutely. I often hear people poo-pooing on things like human design or astrology and really dismissing anything like even the kind of behavioral tests or any of these things. I think it's interesting how many attitudes there are to not get to know yourself. And it's like the worst thing that can happen. The worst thing that can happen by engaging in any of these things is that you feel validated or learn about yourself
Totally.
or have a method of self-inquiry,
1000%.
I just want to encourage anyone who's listening to this and saying like, oh, this is all bullshit. Like, even if it is, like, we're all people who are at least trying to get to know ourselves.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. I mean, and I am not a person who's like, I am not prescriptive about it. Like, I don't look at the astrology of today and say like, okay, Mercury's in retrograde. So, no technology today. Or no travel today. It's like, okay, like I'm just going to recognize that, hey, maybe I need to pay closer attention to like backing up my stuff and like check my, boarding pass time and make sure I'm really like on it. because, maybe, but it's not like I'm living and dying by it. And it's, even when we're talking about the human design piece, if anything, what I think it really does for us is you just mentioned that validation piece. It gives us that like, I kind of knew this about myself. And it gives us a little bit of that permission to do us in a more doing me type of way. And if it doesn't resonate for you, that's okay. Like you don't, and there's plenty of modalities out there that I'm like, oh, that one's not for me. And I just, that's fine. Not that I think it's wrong or I think that there's not validity to it for someone else. It maybe just isn't for me. I just have found that these particular modalities have given me some way showing. And listen, here's like one of my funny astrology validations. I always date Taurus men. My husband's a Taurus. All the guys I dated before him were Tauruses. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means, but it is true. And I could sit down on a first date every time and be like, you were born between this date and this date, weren't you? Because it's just what I attract. It just is true.
You want to hear something?
Yes.
Aside from my current partner, who is a Virgo,
Mm-hmm.
my last 3 serious partnerships were all within a week of birthday. Like
Of course they were.
all Pisces.
So this is interesting. So maybe for you had to go through this experience of all this like Piscean energy. And now you're like, okay, that was that. And I'm good on that. I'm like wrapping that up and I'm done with it. And I'm moving to this type of energy as like my future. This is it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do feel that I'm in a very different phase of my life. And I could really group, of course, all the relationships I learned so much, and they were all their own unique phases, but they were kind of back to back relationships. I didn't have much break between, and they were all Pisces men. And then I took a larger break. I became like a life coach. I got certified there. I got certified as a Tantra practitioner. I did a lot of life in between. And then I met my current partner, who is a hardcore Virgo.
Do you
He's
know
the
on
most-
the astrology wheel, Pisces and Virgo are on the exact opposite axes?
No way, really.
So like, here's what could have happened. You were like living in this Piscean energy. And then you're like, I'm envisioning you like walking along this plane to the other axis. And you're like, now I sit on the opposite. They like share, there's energetics shared across the axis, but you're now on like the seesaw. You've like chosen the other seat on the seesaw.
Yeah. Crazy. Well, there will be no Taurus slander here because I am a Taurus.
Well, and look, I'm a
So.
Taurus. I mean, obviously I married Ben, so I'm like great with the Taurus energy. I'm a Taurus moon, and I really think emotionally I connect very deeply with Taurus energy. And so the very first date I had with Ben, my husband, I was like, of course he's a Taurus. And I was making this decision on whether or not I was going to continue to date Taurus men. But I was like, no, I just connect like very deeply with this energy. And it is, to me, that energy really lights me up. So I was like, no, of course that's right for me. Until we find the one, if there is that thing for us, we're always going to be like, okay, I'm experimenting until I land on what that is. So, I was like, I feel very sure that Taurus man is right for me. I just need to find the right one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I ditched the Pisces for a Virgo, but my dog is a Pisces. So
Okay, so you still get that.
I still have the Pisces energy around me.
Perfect.
I want to dig a little bit deeper into the social media because you
Okay.
really have nailed that. And it is my greatest fear. And I think for a lot of people, it's like the dark side, like it feels like a non-negotiable to me. Do you agree with that statement? If you're going to have a successful business or brand, that you have to have social media, or is there still hope for the people who kind of don't want to do that?
I mean, I think it's possible to do it without, but it is not easy because social media is such an amplifier. So if you aren't going to be a social media person, you could still build a business through in-person events, maybe through like speaking engagements, through partnerships, through PR, through networking. I have a girlfriend. which is wild because I feel like because she's not on social media, I never know what she's doing unless we actually like talk. Imagine that. Like you actually have to like talk to somebody outside of like seeing what they're doing on social,
I live
right?
in Europe, so most of
Yeah,
my friends, they're Europeans. I don't know anything that they're doing unless I
right.
actually talk to them.
Yeah, so like that's a thing. But for her, she's like built a great business without it, but it is such a
Wow.
different approach. It's such she has a travel
Okay.
business and she does it all through networking and she's like
Mm,
constantly going to events.
yeah.
Whereas I'm like
Okay.
I not that I don't want to do that and not that I don't, recommend that for people, but I think you can really amplify and move faster without having to put yourself out there in that way quite as much if you're willing to do the social media work. But it is work. It's certainly, it's hard.
And how do we find, similarly to what you said about like human design and getting to know yourself and the kind of business that you want to have, how do we engage with social media in a way that still feels in
Mhm.
flow
Yep.
with us? And because boy, social media can also just be it can be such a draining space to be in. So how
Yeah.
do we create a relationship with social media that feels more like you want to be on there, you want to be posting, you want to engage in it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to find what works for you, what resonates for you, what resonates with your people, the people that you're like creating the content for in a way that allows you to feel connected to some storytelling, some like humanness of the whole thing. I think when we feel like we have to get on there and perform in some way, or that we're being given a performance score, aka those like vanity metrics of like how many people liked it, how many people shared it, how many people commented on it. When we feel like we're having to do it as performance, it does not feel great for most of us. So really like shifting that perspective to like how do I create resonance and human connection this through this technology, and then using that energetic alignment to decide how you're going to work with it. So like I said, for me, that if I tried to sit down and write a 30-day social media plan, it was like not it. I would feel frustrated. I would not have the ideas flowing. In my human design, my strategy is called to respond. So I have to be in some sort of response mode to want to create on social media. I have to be responding to something. It could even be my own thing, something that I've had been working on that I'm like, ooh, I feel called to share this idea. But if you're like, sit down and map out a plan of everything you're going to say in the next 30 days, I'm frustrated. I'm not energetically in a place to do that. I can't see the future resonance. That doesn't feel like it's building human connection for me. None of that's hitting, so it feels bad. So for me, I have to think about, okay, what am I responding to? How is this going to create connection with my people? How is it going to make their lives a little bit better? What story can I tell? That's one part of it. And then you've got to decide what your boundaries are, what your boundaries are with it. Like I'm not a scroller. And I had to like create that boundary for myself that I'm not getting on there to really see everything else that's going on. Because if I start doing that, what happens for many of us is we start getting in comparison mode. We're like, how is it that their things do it? They can do it this way and they get this result. And I'm trying to do it and it's not getting me that result, or it doesn't look as good, or it doesn't sound as good, or whatever the thing is that we get in our head about. So I really think about I'm here to create in a way that's like making something better for someone, making somebody's life a little bit better. I'm creating a connection. I'm not here to consume, and then I move on. So if you're like in this process of how do I do this thing, this social media thing in a way that feels good to me, I think about your energetics, think about the human connection you want to create, think about the resonance you want to create, consider your boundaries, and then see if you can build a plan from there.
Yeah. And I think the thing that gets us all caught up are the metrics, right? Like you
Yeah,
post
totally.
something, you want to see how many likes, how many people saw it, did anyone comment? And also, you always hear this advice of like, well, you need to be posting every day, or you need to be posting, with because of the algorithm, you need to do
hmm
da 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 da. So how much should we be weighing on those metrics? Or do you
I mean,
feel like,
it's hard, right? Because it's like we all feel that dopamine hit when we're like, this post I created hit, people liked it. People are commenting, people are engaging with me. Now I feel better. But I think that the big thing to consider is it making an impact in my life in some way? Is it making somebody else's life a little better? And that's a hard pivot to make from did it hit to like, is it actually worth something of actual value? And I think, of course, the consistency piece, all of that helps to get more of those vanity metrics, sure. But if it doesn't feel good for you, then it's not, it's not going to be sustainable.
Yeah, and it seems like, I mean, I'm a follower of yours on Instagram, and you seem to post quite regularly, and the things that you post tend to do very well, and they also look beautiful. You have a very consistent brand vibe. So I really look up to that you have already found your way and that your message is effective and it's finding its people. If you do start posting things, like if someone wants to start posting and finding their people online and they're not seeing their people show up, how do you self-reflect? How do you course correct that to get even more in alignment?
There's definitely a lot of room for experimentation on social media. So I think like get comfortable with experimenting and know that like everything's not going to hit. And there's going to be times when like you experiment, and then something does hit and you're like, okay, no, this is the way. And maybe that works for a while. And then some things shift in the way that the internet works. I mean, an algorithm is ultimately just a machine deciding where this thing is supposed to go, right? So it's not there to punish you. It's just, does this piece of content on this particular technical realm go here or here or here or here? And who are the people that are going to want to play with this piece of content? That's all the machine is doing. It's trying to figure out where to place you. So when those algorithms change because something's been tweaked in the back end by the Instagram algorithm gods, then we may have to readjust something that was working at one point that isn't working anymore. And that can feel really frustrating. But the more you're willing to experiment and understand that when something doesn't hit on social, it doesn't make you a failure. It just means that like that particular thing doesn't have a place to land quite yet. And if you can get into that mindset, which is what I've done a lot of in like the time that I've been like doing this social media thing, and I am still experimenting. Like right now I'm trying like some new types of graphics and some new approaches to like how I present information, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work, but it keeps me out of that like fear of like that like, should I post it? Should I not post it? Because I'm like, ultimately, this is all just one big experiment. And the worst that can happen is nobody really sees it, or somebody sees it and they don't like it. And they're like, I don't want to see you ever anymore. Or they say something not so kind. That doesn't happen very often, but like that's the worst that could kind of happen. The best thing that happens is that the right person finds it and they're moved in some way. So great.
Yeah. Yeah. You've given me so much to think about, Andi. Thank you so much. I'm just taking all of it in. It's really, really helpful. There was one final thing I kind of wanted to voice that I've heard from other friends of mine, other women who are really trying to build a brand and make their own business, which is, am I too late? I hear a lot of women, especially older women, kind of feel so intimidated to start because they're trying a new venture for the first time later in life. The technology aspect is very intimidating because they just didn't grow up with the technology in the same way. What advice would you give to the women who are afraid to really go all in because of being older or just not being as in touch with the tech?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, it's a really normal feeling to feel that way. And especially when we're seeing, now we're seeing 18-year-olds who have built $1 million businesses or had these massive creative successes because they had access to things that we didn't have access to at a much earlier age. But the reality is this is a very vast world, and your people will find you no matter what. And that's in that particular idea of, am I too late? It's like, compared to what? Like we can only compare, if we have to compare, let's just like only do it to our own self. Like, where was I a year ago? Where was I 5 years ago? Where was I 10 years ago? And now look at where I am in this moment. So, I would invite anyone who's like going through that thinking to really just look at self and like try to block out the noise, which can be very, very hard. I mean, I'm over here building a beauty brand in my 40s, and I see women all the time that are like 22 and have like, I just sold my beauty brand that I built when I was 18 for like $10 million. And I'm like, who am I to like be trying to do this now in my 40s? But the reality is, if I'm only comparing to self, then it's like, so what? I've done lots of cool things in my life and had lots of amazing life experiences that I'm proud of, and the things that I'm not proud of, I learned lessons from. Great. So like, why not pursue this thing? Again, it's like the worst that can happen is maybe I lose some money. Maybe it's not the thing I was supposed to do. And it like, I find that out along the way. But the best thing that happens is like, I get so much joy out of it. Maybe it does like have some great success financially. Maybe it's something that can be a bit of a legacy for me. Who knows? There's so many things that could happen. Like, one little tactical thing I will tell you is a lot of times that fear is because we're concerned about what our family and friends are going to say. They're like
Absolutely.
the worst, they're the worst
Yeah.
critics. It's like, wait, you're in your 40s and you think you're going to go like build a new thing now? Like what in the world? Like, you've already got this other thing. And I went through that same experience when I was quitting my corporate job in my early 30s. It was like, why in the world would you leave this job? It's a great job. You're great at the job. You keep getting promotions. Like, why would you ever make a change now? You're too late to go start a blog. You're too late to go try to be a writer. If you were going to do that, you should have done that 10 years ago. But the reality is they aren't me. And of course, now my same family and friends that were like, what in the world are you doing 10 years ago? Are like, wow, it's really cool that you did that thing. But they just want to keep you safe, and they like love you, and they can't see perhaps the vision that you're having until you like actually go and do the thing. So, just like do it for you, even though it will feel very
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. And that's a really great point, especially women who are older and
Mhm.
starting businesses. What a great time. You've acquired so much wisdom and life experience. Like, I definitely would prefer to have the product that is being created by the person who knows, who's been through
Yeah.
things, who's struggled through things, who's lived many experiences. So that's a
Mhm.
really, really great point. And I wanted to ask you actually
Mhm.
about Casa Noon and how your beauty brand is coming along. Do you know yet when it's releasing?
I have several times in the last several years had like, dates I thought it was releasing, which ended up not being true. But now I actually think I do have like some
Okay.
perspective. So we're intending to have a late summer launch this year with our first product, and then we have two products we're developing right behind the first product. I've learned so much in the process, literally like building it and then deciding that I needed to scrap it all and start again before we launched. There literally summer of 2023, I thought we were ready to go. And then there were some things that were not quite working, not quite lining up. All the things I've learned around how you manufacture, who your right factory partners should be, where your ingredients should be sourced from, how to source ingredients, how to get the proper, all the
I'm
things
so over
you got.
I'm
I know.
overwhelmed and I'm not doing it.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But
I was like, it'll be so fun to build a brand. And then I'm like, you have to learn where the pump component comes from. And that's going to be different from where this comes from, and where your organic ingredients are going to come from. And oh, they make them here, but they can't ship them here. And, all of it's like, okay. So now I
oh
know all of these
God.
things. And there's probably many things I still don't know, but I know enough to have our first product getting ready to go by end of summer, I think. So feels very exciting.
Amazing. I will be looking out for it and wishing you all the best. That's
Thank
really
you.
incredible. You do so much. I mean, you've explained your process and I've learned so much. I still don't know how you do it. I mean, we are definitely different people because you do so many things. You also have a podcast, you wrote a book, you also have so many different programs like that you run.
Hmm.
And I wanted to ask about that in case any listeners are already obsessed with you and want to be in your orbit.
Yeah.
What are some of the spaces that you are curating that people can join or meet you in?
Yeah, you can find everything at weeweestudio.com. It's we like French we, like OUI, WE, like you and me, studio. And we have all sorts of different ways of being involved in the community. We have a membership club called Out of Office Club. It's for women who are very much just out of office people. We do talk a lot about human design and social media. It's kind of an Instagram club where we're like helping each other out with social. We do retreats. We have a mastermind group. We have courses. We have all sorts of fun stuff depending on what you might be really looking for over there. And you can find the podcast and all that good stuff there too.
Yeah, and the podcast is the Unschool.
Yep. The podcast is called The Unschool. We are prepping to come back for season 5 right now, which feels wild that we're 5 seasons in. And I still love doing it. It's so much fun to create. So it doesn't feel like a job. It feels like just a joyful way to be with people and to share ideas and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Andi. I knew you would be a wonderfully inspiring person to sit and talk to, and I was right. So thank you
Thank you
so
for
much
having me, Sophia. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is really the whole, what you said about the wisdom, like that's for me what it's all about. I really wanted to create a space to empower people, to embolden people that they can make really big choices if they
Hmm.
just take the time to self-reflect, to open their hearts and minds and create a really beautiful, powerful life. I think you're such a beautiful example of that. So thank you for sharing your wisdom.
Thank
I'm
you.
really hoping that we can help so many people and yeah, just make this quite scary world these days, I must say, a
Mhm.
brighter one. So
Absolutely.
so thank you
Cheers
so
to that.
much.
Thank you.
Oh, I absolutely loved this conversation. Thank you. Shout out to Andi for sharing so much beautiful insight with us today. If you would like to work with Andi and you want to check her out, go to her website, We Studio. That's OUIWE studio.com. There you can find all her programs and everything you need to get her into your orbit. You will not regret it. And let me know in the comments below, are you going to implement any of these tips into your daily life, into your business? Also, hey, are there any other projectors or manifesting generators, or what's your human design? I'm very curious. Let me know in the comments below. And if you are not already following this podcast, what are you doing? We're going to continue having really fantastic conversations here. It means so much to me to have you as part of the community. So please follow, subscribe, do all the things. It really helps the girl out. I want to continue supporting this community that we're creating together. So it would mean so much to me. Anyway, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you for the next one. Bye.